So I got the controller yesterday and I already had some time to test it out, and what should I say? It changes everything about the Spark. All this signal loss, all this waiting to reconnect, flying home automatically, it's all gone. The signal is totally stable now, the video stream is so good and it's so much fun flying the Spark now. Like, you can really do all these epic movements and stuff like that. So for me, now the Spark is really a drone that you can use for filmmaking. Also, the build quality is pretty good, like on all DJI products. I mean, people say that this thing feels a little cheaper than the controller of the Mavic, and I agree with them. But I mean, come on, the Spark is cheaper than the Mavic, so that's okay. It's still pretty heavy, it still feels good. You have this rubber here, so it's really comfortable to hold. You have your custom buttons, you have your gimbal wheel. Like, this controller is all I need. So I want to say this again, my advice is, if you want to buy the Spark, get the Fly Mode combo. Or get the controller separately if you want to and if you don't believe me, but you will need the controller sooner or later. But now, to summarize my experience with the Spark and to give those of you an advice who still think about getting the Spark or the Mavic, let me recapture the most important things that divide the Spark from the Mavic. The first important thing is the battery life, because of course it's a lot shorter than the Mavics, but the batteries are smaller, the batteries are less heavy than those of the Mavic. And if you're looking for the best quality in the smallest package, that for me is the Spark. And for someone like me who likes to travel and who wants to carry the drone while traveling, lighter is always better. The image quality is really good. Of course, it's just 1080p and it's just 30 frames per second, but the colors are good, it's not oversaturated. I found it even a little less saturated than the Mavics. And even the lack of proper picture profiles or like custom picture profiles, like a cine-like profile, for me that's not really a reason, because most of us non-professional filmmakers are more used to like neutral picture profiles instead of flat picture profiles. I mean, of course you get like 1 or 2 stops more of dynamic range, but that doesn't change everything, and for me that's not worth paying like 500 bucks more for a drone, because that's money that I can spend on something else. The next point is the range, and there are a few people complaining about that the Spark can only fly up to 2 kilometers away instead of the Mavic with the 7 kilometers. And that's kind of a point for me, but I found the Spark even hard to find in the sky after only 100 and 115 meters. So I have to say, I'm not really comfortable with flying it like more than 500 meters away. If you are, that's pretty cool, but I found that I have some kind of responsibility if I fly a drone over a location where people can be and where something can happen, and if I don't see the drone anymore, then I'm feeling like really not that good flying. Another thing are the frame rates, or that you have to stick with 30 frames per second and you don't really get proper slow motion out of the box. But as I said in my recent update for my review, I like to do slow motion with the optical flow features in my video editing software, like I did before I got the GH4 with the variable frame rate feature. So that's not really a point to me, because I'm used to using optical flow and I found that it works pretty good in like 95%. And the slow motion or the higher frame rates of the Mavic, as I said in my update, aren't really good because of some technical issues or some software issues in the Mavic firmware, which can cause like really pixelated footage if you're using higher frame rates. One important thing to think about before buying either the Spark or the Mavic is the 4K. And as I said, if you need 4K for whatever reason that might be, you have to get the Mavic, because the Spark doesn't 4K in the video mode and it won't do it anytime soon, because even though there's a 4K sensor or the sensor of the Mavic in the Spark, they use the larger picture to crop it down and do some electronic image stabilization on it. But for me now 4K isn't so important because it's not a standard yet, and yes it will be, and then I will get a Mavic 2 or 3 or whatever that might be. But for now, the Spark with the 1080 is really all I need. And the last, but for me the most important point, is the price. Like, Before the Spark came out, when it was just announced, people said that instead of getting the Fly More combo, you could get the Mavic and you would get more out of it with just paying a few $100 more. And that's kind of true, but with the Fly More combo, you get an extra battery, you get the charging hub, you get a case and the propellers. And you get all of that for like $799. If you want the Fly More combo of the Mavic, you pay, I guess, $1,300 or $1,400. And that's way more, because for $1,099 you only get the Mavic alone. Of course with the controller, but with just one battery. So you have to decide what's better, but for me saving up to $500 or $600 is really a thing to think about. Because as I said before, I can take this money and spend it somewhere else. So to end this, I am really happy with the Spark. Now that I have the controller, it's the perfect drone for me. It gives me all that I need, and for now I'm really happy. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And you can also go and check out my latest video called The Summer Diary, where I used the GH4 and the DJI Spark. So that's it for today. I hope to see you guys in the next week.